What's up, gang? It is one of your hosts here, Cody Stoffer, and I am joined here by Coach V as we continue our longest standing tradition here at the pod and talk about top 5 seniors by position here. And on this episode, we are going to be discussing the tight end position here. And there's a lot of great candidates this year and a lot of them that have overlapping skills, but we determine who the top 5 seniors are based off of this rubric here that has 10 categories. Those 10 categories being route running / release, blocking, speed, hands / ball skills, footwork / agility, field vision, strength, route tree / versatility, verticality / contested catch, and balance / body control. We grade those on a scale from 1 to 10. 1 to 3 being needs improvement, should be a priority for this player. At best, the skill is okay, but could be a reason for getting benched. 4 to 6 is average. On a bad day, it's below average, and on a good day, it's above average. But, it's just kind of okay for the high school level, not necessarily the best for the next level. 7 to 8 is above average to good. You're starting to talk 2 to 3 star here. 8 to 9, good to great. Kind of 3 to 4 star on, the scale of recruits and prospects and stuff like that, where it's just something that is, even at its worst, it's still pretty good. And then 9 to 10 is elite. This is a 4 or 5 star level talent, consistently performing the skill well, has, depth in performing it, a lot of reps performing it. And, even on the worst days, it's still something that's in their bag and, separates them from the rest of the talent in even the country. So those are the 10 categories here. We had a bunch of awesome prospects to look at throughout the state of Colorado for the class of 2024. And yes, Simon, do you have any other notes to add on before we talk about our number 5 senior tight end here?
Yeah, I also want to add this. This is kind of new to our process here, but we went ahead and also evaluated the top 2 rated tight ends in this class of 2024 here. So the top 2 in the country, for me, that was Caleb Odom and Devon Mitchell. Mitchell had 88.5 for me overall grade, and Caleb Odom, he had 84.1. So that just kind of sets a baseline here when comparing, our prospects here in Colorado to those across the country. And, the tight end position is also really interesting because I feel like the tight ends who are most likely to be crazy receivers are definitely pushed to the top. So there is that as well. So this is going to definitely be interesting, but looking forward to it, especially knowing that, we compared them to 2 of the best in the country. Right, Cody?
Yeah, no, I think that was an awesome wrinkle that you added here, and I think that, that's something that obviously is going to help with perspective. And then, Coach V and I, obviously, before the show, we kind of bounce back and forth. We have conversations as well, kind of off the mic to, just have a discussion, say, I saw this, what did you see, how did you evaluate that, and just kind of ping pong a little bit off of each other's scores after doing an initial score of our own. So, we have all this, then we have little descriptions as well to kind of talk through our thought process. And honestly, I have a ton of fun doing this series, because it is the most original series to our show here, starting back in the COVID year of the fall of 2020, which was a wild time. And, I think that we started this, series and even this show, and the direction that it took was to promote recruits here in the state of Colorado. And I'd say that this series has done that pretty effectively to this point. So, there's going to be a list of names here that are honorable mentions. There's going to be guys who are committed, guys who aren't committed. And we're excited to talk about it all here.
Yeah, and with that being said, Cody, do you mind if I introduce this number 5 tight end here?
Send it.
So, the number 5 tight end in Colorado in the class of 2024 is Kent Denver's Nicholas Bucknow here. Excuse me if I'm saying that wrong, but I'm pretty sure that's how you say it. I do want to give a little bit of background. So this was a guy we actually saw in the 7-on-7 scene during the off season here in 2023 here before this season, and he really stood out and had a great senior year over at Kent Denver, and was a part of that great program and the season that they had, bouncing back with that new, or I guess second year head coach. But let's go ahead and talk about Nick here. So I'm gonna talk about the positives, the things that I really like that stood out to me first, and then I'll throw it to Kodey and we'll go from there. But for Nicholas here, first off, he's 6'5", 200, but man, does he play like a receiver out there. I think he's definitely somebody who can translate to the next level as a receiver potentially. But some of his highest ratings for me, I gave him an 8.6 for route tree and versatility. I mean, they use him in a lot of, not route tree versatility. I gave him an 8.6 for verticality and contested catch here, because, he's somebody that could get up there and he's going to go make a play and get the ball and make the catch. In the TCA game that we saw live, actually, Kodey, you and I were there together, there were a couple plays where he just came down with the football making great plays. I remember one over the middle on a post route that was real nice. Great coverage there. He just out-muscled the corner there. And then on another route down the left sideline, he just leaped in. He just has great ball skills here, and he's going to come down with the football. He's real strong there, and he's just going to make a play in 101. So that's why he has an 8.6 in verticality, contested catch, along with balance and body control as well. He's somebody that is pretty dangerous after the catch too. Will make a lot of tough catches, but will also, throw some guys off there and be a tough guy to bring down. So those are two things that really stood out to me, along with some of his route running and his release, which is up there at an 8.6. Like I said, this is a guy in a 6'5" frame that has a lot of great skills of a receiver on the next level. Honestly, he definitely can play receiver on the next level, but for him to do it at the tight end position is absolutely huge. But Kodey, what are some things that you agree on or disagree on when it comes to Nick Bucknote here? And, what are some of his strengths?
Yeah, well, I think that my initial disagreement was I was reading his name probably the wrong way because I was going with Bucano here. But either ways, we're just going to call him Nick here. And I think that obviously, the thing that we talked about in private is I was just so taken aback by his route running. This guy had the head nods, he had the stutter steps, he had the double moves all in his bag to shake defenders loose and, create a ton of room, honestly, catching the football, which is huge in and of itself. But additionally to that, even when defenders found a way to stick with him, aka when he was double or even triple covered at times and interfered with in the pass game, it did not impact his ability to make some heavily contended catches with just very strong hands and the ability to track down the ball. He's literally carrying guys in mid-route while heading towards the football to make a catch and making the play. There were multiple times during that TCA game where I think he probably won me over the most, where he was literally being dragged down by his ankles and stuff, and he continued to make plays and make the defense pay, as well as drawing flags on top of all of those. So, just an unstoppable, locomotive here. And I think that Nick is a great reflection on kind of what the tight end position means these days, as far as, are you an absurd size, like 6'4 plus, and can you move really fast, and are you hard to bring down, versus they're maybe not as fast as receivers, but they're bigger and they're stronger here. So, I think that he fits that mold very, very well. And then I also think that I wanted to shout out his balance/body control that I had rated at an 8.6 here, because, like I said, not only is he able to make these tough catches, but he's a little bit acrobatic with it too, with defenders holding an arm here, pulling a leg there, pushing him towards the sideline. He's able to maintain those boundary catches. He's able to, shed tackles through great control. And I think that he just plays very, inside of his frame as well. So I think that all of those things, Simon, you and I were pretty eye to eye on all of those things, as well as, most of the other categories that we had over on 8s and whatnot. So I'd say that pretty similar across the board there. And, I think that talking about areas of improvement, potentially, I think that the number one thing lacking from his film and also in-game, I mean, you get a little bit more of it in-game, so, but nothing to write home about is his blocking and, his strength in that facet of the game. I mean, while I do have his strength rated at a 7.3 because it does take multiple defenders to drag him down typically, that I think has more to do with his body control than just the ability to carry guys for yards on end or to push them off of him. And during that TCA game where there was plenty of run plays called and there was a battle going on in the trenches, I didn't look over to Simon and be like, wow, that number 3 just got that pancake. I mean, obviously Kent Denver, they had guys up front that were capable of doing that, but I don't know if Nick was necessarily one of those guys. So for blocking, I had him rated at a 4.9 because I was like, it's fine, I guess, but nothing that I was losing my mind over. Coach V, what's your return serve on that?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely agreed. Gave him a 4 for blocking, 6 for strength here. As far as strength goes, I mean, I feel like he has gotten bigger every season so far, which is good, right? I feel like last season, looking through some film and from what I heard, he was definitely a lot lighter than the frame he's at now. At 200 pounds, I think that's pretty accurate. I wouldn't imagine he's too far over or under that, but he could definitely gain more weight, I should say. Has great balance and body control, which really masks some of those issues there at strength, but I think he could definitely get stronger. As far as blocking goes, I mean, yeah, you're right. It's not like he was a non-factor out there, but, would love to see him continue to work at the craft. There are definitely tight ends who may not have the strength to be an elite blocker, but they have the skill, and then the strength comes later, right? And so I'd definitely like to see him develop a little bit more here, but at the same time, he's not exactly asked to do that a lot, so I don't know. Maybe he's an amazing blocker and we're just sleeping on it, but on the film it's just not there, and he wasn't asked to do that a whole ton. On the next level, I mean, they're gonna have to know if you're a good blocker or not. That's a direct correlation to playing time at tight end. So there is that there. Before we do move on here, I do want to talk about some of the other things. Route tree versatility, kind of talked about that. Can't really control that, but I gave him a 7 there. Field vision, 8.2. Footwork agility, 7.4. Hand/ball skills, 8.3. Speed, 8.4. To go with all the other ratings I said, I gave him an overall of a 75 here. How should I say this? Here, Kodey. So I gave him a 75. He wasn't the 5th highest rated tight end that I evaluated, but there were a lot of tight ends kind of in the same range here. So there is that. But Kodey, why don't you talk about the rest of your grades and then kind of project forward here? You know what I mean?
No, absolutely. So, I mean, for Nick here, I'll just run down the list kind of like you did, 8.8 on route running / release, which I thought was his strongest trait. 4.9 blocking, 8.4 speed, 8.5 hand/ball skills, 8 footwork agility, 8.6 field vision, 7.3 strength, 7.9 route tree / versatility, 8.8 verticality / contested catch, and 8.6 body / balance and control here. To just lightly touch on field vision and footwork / agility, he was given a few looks in screens, especially mid-screens. I think that he did a good job navigating the field there, and as well when running his routes, I felt like he found the open pockets. So a little bit of route running and then just, being aware of the boundaries and whatnot there whenever running with the football. I think that he was pretty good about that. And then footwork / agility, I thought that he could change direction pretty well, and his footwork was part of his route running that was good. So, those are why those scores were a little bit higher. And, I think that for Nick here, looking at his commitment, he is committed, actually. I'll be glad to announce to play at Pomona Pitzer here, or Pitzer. Sorry if I'm illiterate. I'm a football player, so there's that. But that is a D3 in the SCIAC, which is the Southern California Intercollegiate Athletic Conference here. And I feel like this is hopefully a, pedestal is kind of what I'm aiming for here, because I had him rated at a 79.8. Neither Simon or myself kind of think that he's necessarily ready for maybe that D1 kind of look here, But I absolutely think that, with a year at, a D3 school, he could potentially earn some looks with a transfer, honestly. Building up some weight and getting used to that college life. And I mean, N offers better than no offers here. He's also a 3-sport athlete, so I'm assuming that he might have interest in playing with other squads there. And, between my rating of 79.8 and Coach V's of a 75, that put him at a 77.4, which was only 0.15 higher than the first guy off this list. So it was very close, but I fought tooth and nail just because I really think that, some of the little things, the little details that he does well are, a little bit harder to come by for receivers / tight ends his age. And I think that, he's a little bit raw in some aspects, but also I think that he could be ready to play a little bit sooner than later, especially with what we've seen from tight ends on the next level that are similar to Nick. I think that we could potentially see him get some snaps this year if he could do it in a way that preserves, years of eligibility or something like that. I think that that is a very clear path to potentially climbing a ladder here and going up the ranks. Or, he could continue to play multiple sports at this D3 and piecemeal, different stuff. And, he's a 3.85 GPA guy as well, to throw that out there. So I think that, he's got a lot going for him, but I do think that his ceiling is a little bit higher than where he is currently. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, I agree, and I think you meant stepping stone, not pedestal. when talking about the college. Yeah, no, for sure. Here's the thing about Nick. I love his potential. When it comes to contested catches, route running, that was stuff that stood out to us right away when we first saw him in the offseason. And look, some of those things are just stuff that you can't exactly teach or fine-tune. You just gotta be a dog sometimes and be like that, you gotta win those battles when it's a jump ball, and he does a great job doing that. And look, at 6'5", 200, you also can't teach that either, right? I don't think he has to gain 50 pounds or anything like that, but if he could put on a solid 20 to 30, 20 to 30, I think he'd be fine, right? And so, yeah, you're right. I think he should get some playing time here soon at the college he's going to. I mean, when you're an athletic freak like that, with the skill set you have, usually things work out if you continue to work at it. Like, I could teach you how to block. I could, teach you how to put on more weight. And that's pretty doable, And a lot of the guys that were rated around him were guys that, needed another year for them to be truly dominant and potential D1 guys. And I think Nick, he definitely has that D1 potential, but you got to take a year or two to, really develop more still. And I think that's never a bad thing. And as long as he's balling out and getting those opportunities, he'll be fine.
Yeah, so I think that that's a great description on Nick here from Kent Denver, our number 5 tight end of 2024 here at Playmakers Corner. Coach V, are we ready to jump to our number 4 rated tight end here?
Yeah, let's do it.
Perfect. So our number 4 rated tight end, this is a name that you've probably heard if you're familiar with the Colorado football circle here, and that is Mason Cogill here, the 6'4.5", important half inch here, 225-pound tight end out of Erie High School here, who is already committed on the next level. But before we talk about his commitment, let's go ahead and talk about some of the things that he does well here. So I'll go ahead and start us off here. He was my 5th rated tight end personally on my list here. And, he did a few things right. I think that blocking is definitely one of the first things that jumps off the page for me here. I think that he's a consistent blocker. His hands are always in the right place, and he does a great job driving his legs. And, he's somebody who also, finishes blocks really, really well. So I think that that is something that he does well. And then, I would say that while his volume necessarily on contested catches isn't the highest, in his highlight reel, almost every time he catches the ball, he's getting hammered by a safety or a linebacker that is sitting on it, and he manages to hold on to the ball there. So I did want to give him some props because he is catching in, traffic quite a bit there between linebackers, in front of safeties, getting crunched, And, I think that maybe not verticality-wise speaks to, his strengths, but I think that contested catch-wise, he's making really tough catches in the middle of the field. And what more could you want out of a reliable pair of hands? His hands as well, I have rated at a 7.9. And then his balance/body control, I think that this is best exemplified in his blocking, that he does stay square to whoever he's blocking. He stays, over himself. He doesn't get too far extended. But I also think that, it kind of is a testament to his ability, once again, to hold on to those passes over the middle as well. Just because, he is getting bounced around. He is getting slammed around. But, it's not usually the first guy, once again, to contest him or bring him down in that way. So those were the things that I had above an 8. And then I had a few things that were just knocking on that door here. Hand/ball skills, like I said, at a 7.9. Footwork/agility, I had at a 7.9 as well, just because he does keep them pumping in that run game as well, and gets particular down the sideline, has made some good catches throughout the years too. I mean, this is a guy who's been catching passes on the varsity level for at least 3 years now. I'm not sure how many snaps he was getting as a freshman, but I know since as a sophomore he's been seeing playing time on the varsity level. And to transition back a little bit here, I also have his strength rated at a 7.8 because he is handling edge rushers and whatnot. Actually, live update, that's going to be an 8, actually. So that puts him at a total of 76.7. But before I talk about my areas of improvement here, I do want to pass it off to Coach V.
Yeah, so Mason Kogo here from Erie. The thing that really stood out to me about him is that he is just a great all-around athlete at 6'4", 225. I mean, speed, I gave him an 8.3. Footwork, agility, 8.4. This is a guy that can move at this frame here, and he carries his weight really, really well. If you didn't know he was 225, and I mean, you wouldn't know he was 225 by just watching his film and seeing how he's able to maneuver around and do a good job. And even then, I mean, the strength is there too. I gave him an 8, not one of his higher grades, but it's still a solid grade there as well. So just a great blend of speed and power from Mason here. And then on top of that, I love his blocking. First things first, he's a 6'0" academy guy. Shout out our guy, Coach Matt McChesney. Usually those guys are top tier blockers in this state, and he is a great blocker. He always finishes blocks almost to a fault. There are times where it's like, hey, you do not need to finish this block. Just knock him out and then go to the next guy. And there are some missed opportunities there. That's why his blocking isn't higher compared to some of the other guys, but still really good at 8.3. You love a guy that could set the tone always when it comes to football, and that's who he is, right? That's definitely who he is. And so him with his athleticism and blocking goes a really long way for him at 6'4", 225. I wish Erie would feed him the ball more. And what's ironic is that we are recording this on December 1st, 2023. So this is one day before state. And so who knows, maybe he gets like 10 receptions at state and goes for 200 yards or something crazy like that against a great Palmer Ridge defense. I don't know. I don't think that's going to happen because they're really good. But, who knows? I think he is capable of that, though. If they fed him more, I feel like his numbers would be probably a little bit better, honestly, because that would mean more looks and stuff like that. But Erie, I mean, they always have great receivers. They had one guy who made a top 5 list last year, and then a bunch of great backs and stuff as well. So he's just kind of crowded here, but they ask him to do a lot, and in my opinion, he handles it very, very well. Also, I want to shout out his balance and body control as well. Gave him an 8.3 there, too. I mean, just a great all-around athlete. Now, Kodey, do you mind if I talk about some things he could potentially improve on or some things I'd like to see here?
Yeah, there's a few things to talk about there, so take it away.
Yeah, and it's not too crazy. I mean, he's a pretty well-rounded athlete for me, but his lowest grades were both 7s in route running / release and route tree / versatility. Already talked about the versatility part. Usually with these athletes, you can't control that, but obviously if you're a next level coach, you want to see that and see, okay, well, here are the systems that this kid could fit into. And so unfortunately, not having that versatility kind of just leaves some, I don't know, some things to chance, to thought almost, and so you can't really control that. It is what it is. Route running and release, I feel like where he was positioned, there wasn't a lot of room to see where his releases were at and what kind of what different releases he could use, and that also ties into the route running as well. Not a lot of different routes called for him, so couldn't see that variety there. But we know he's a great athlete, so there's that, and he can adjust to that. So really, that's just me nitpicking. Gave him a 7.5 for field vision. Not a lot of opportunities. Same with verticality and contested catch. That probably could be higher, but just not a lot of opportunities for him to get fed the ball. Like I said, who knows? Maybe tomorrow against Palmer Ridge, he goes crazy and he gets a lot of those contested catches against a talented, defense over there, especially with those linebackers and safeties that match up really well. Maybe he does really well and that changes and he moves up a little bit. But I think it's just really a lack of volume here, which is why these ratings are a little low. Is that fair to say, Kodey?
Oh, absolutely fair. It's kind of a problem that plagued, honestly, a lot of our guys who were honorable mentions on this episode. Volume is just kind of a big issue here for a lot of these guys, and Kogil's no different here. I put a 7 for route running / release just because we don't really get to see a lot of it. He runs on film and even in game like ins, outs, and seams. That's like it. So, he makes the most out of all of his opportunities, obviously. And, he's still a dog and somebody who's making plays, but definitely not where, we want to see, somebody that is heading to that next level necessarily. So, definitely not a ton of looks. And then for his route tree / versatility, I also kind of pinged him there a little bit with a 6.6. And, this is kind of an unfortunate thing whenever we are evaluating, because this is something that's not entirely, a player's fault. But holy cow, 10 receptions for 200 yards this season? Like, what the heck is going on? Like, get this guy the football already. He just does so many other things right. We've been watching him for a few years now, and, we've got to see him in different capacities. I know that he has one-on-one capabilities as well. So, I was able to, Simon and myself were able to, piece together where, this offer and this look on the next level is coming from. Coach V, do you want me to talk about where he is heading?
Yeah, go ahead and do that.
Perfect. So he is, as of October 16th, committed to South Dakota football here for the University of South Dakota. And, I think that this is an awesome opportunity for him. And I think that this is a good fit, honestly. And I think that this is also a place where we could see his full potential kind of on further display at the tight end position.
Yeah, no, absolutely agreed. You want to say this about every prospect that you evaluate or that you're interested in, but I truly think that moving forward, like going into college and whatnot, he could have a better college career than high school career. Look, this is a kid who's just a great athlete at 6'4", 225. Good skill set, a good variety of a skill set here that they could work with up there at South Dakota. And, I really wouldn't be surprised if he had a better college career than high school career. That's the ceiling on this kid. I really think this is a guy that is D1, is a capable D1 athlete and tight end. And, give him another year or two, and I think he could definitely contribute here soon.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I agree with that. And between my score at a 76.7 and your score at a 78.4, he came in at a 77.55, only 0.15 higher than Nick at that number 5 spot. Like I said, very, very close and close here with these top 6 guys and, the other guys that, we'll mention before talking about our number 1 guy. Also, just a very solid group of tight ends this past season. But, I think that this next guy here at the number 3 spot, barring anything else that Coach V wants to add on Mason here, is probably one of the best highlight reels we had at this position this past year.
Yes. Do you mind if I go ahead and talk about him?
Yeah. Talk about someone from our old conference.
Yeah, so Cody probably would have hated playing against this guy, but our number 3 tight end in the class of 2024 is Eagle Crest's Logan Ryan, the 6'5", 215-pound athlete who honestly had a big-time season. I would probably say a breakout season here in his senior year, which is why he's rated so high here at number 3. Let me go ahead and talk about the things that make him great here. The ratings that I gave him, or the highest ratings that I gave him here, I gave him an 8.8 for hands and ball skills and an 8.7 for balance and body control. Look, this is a guy that definitely can play receiver on the next level and can moss dudes and go crazy. You know, just looking at some of the catches this guy's making in the end zone or over the middle or whatever, I mean, he's getting
They're
up
ridiculous.
there. And he's going, yeah, absolutely ballistic. And also, I am lying. I actually gave him a 9 for verticality and contested catch. So that's actually his highest rating. And then an 8.8 for hands and ball skills and 8.7 for balance and body control. So, yeah, no, this is a guy that'll go get it. You know, and he's a top tier guy. We've seen guys here in 5A, and I guess 4A, with the potential to just go get the ball and make a play here with a big frame at 6'5", 215, or a frame similar to this. I mean, one of those guys is Terrence Ferguson, who's over at Oregon right now. And I feel like as far as ball skills go, they have very, very similar skill sets there. You know, if you need him to go get a catch, he's going to go get it. And the great thing about him is that he consistently would make plays in the red zone and has shown to be a great red zone threat as well. Gave him an 8.6 for speed, 8.6 for route running and release, and 8.6 for footwork and agility. In the red zone, he's so dangerous, and all those things are reflected when he's in there because he's going to go score. You know, he's not just going to make a play and move the chains and whatnot. He's going to go get a touchdown for you, plain and simple. He's a touchdown getter in the red zone, and he's a threat there. And yeah, I mean, I just don't have too much more to say. He's just so dominant in that area. It's hard to deny him a spot on our top 5 list. Wouldn't you agree, Cody?
Hard is one word, but undeniable is another here for Logan Ryan in our top 5. I mean, he is a jump ball specialist, like you said. Sticky hands, great speed, and a nice splash of strength to shed tackles here and there. And, you know, he's somebody who, I mean, his opening catch on his highlight reel is that, like, one-handed, like, kind of OBJ energy, honestly, in the end zone on kind of a late decision by the quarterback there. And I think that, that is pretty fun to watch here. And I had a ton of fun watching him. And you're absolutely right. I would have not enjoyed playing against him. Probably would have tried saying he's overrated or something, but just been coping some kind of way because there is definitely no one on my squads that could match up with Logan Ryan. And that was the case for most teams that they played this year. I mean, dude was on an absolute tear. To kind of detract here and talk some numbers, I mean, he had 2 touchdown games against Rocky Mountain, Lakewood, but then even more so Cherokee Trail and Smoky Hill over 120 yards. And against Arapahoe, my alma mater, actually, is where he had one of his best games, going for 3 touchdowns and 7 catches for 54 yards. So just feasting in the red zone there. And I think that was especially true when you look at, some of my higher scores. 9.2 hand/ball skills and 8.9 verticality/contested catch. These things went hand in hand for him and made him so dangerous for opposing defenses. Linebackers, you could definitely not put a linebacker on this guy. I mean, you're just asking for trouble, honestly. And, that's even including, like, in my mind, we've watched linebacker film as well. I would not feel confident putting I don't want to say most of, but about half the linebackers on that list against Logan Ryan. Would not feel the best about that one-on-one matchup, and he's just too big for safeties and corners as well. So he does all of that very well, and as far as tight ends go, he moves very, very fast. He's somebody who, once he gets to the sideline, he can win those foot races there with the long strides that he has, and somebody who, even between the hashes, does a great job of using his speed and acceleration and bursting for, getting more open. And he definitely catches people by surprise for sure. And, along with his balance/body control at an 8.8, where he makes some sideline grabs and he's able to tiptoe down the sideline, is something that I liked a lot there. So, kind of awareness in that regard, and something that Coach V also had graded pretty high. And then, his footwork/agility I thought was also very solid. I mean, I had the same exact grade as Coach V with an 8.6 there. So I think that he does a lot of things very well. And even the things that he doesn't do super well, I mean, it could be a lot worse, is kind of where I'm at with that. And, I'm actually just going to tear into that half of this here with areas of improvement. I think that while he was cognizant of the field, I think that he also maybe missed some opportunities on some of the shorter passes that he received, because he did like his speed and his odds down the sideline. So I think that he kind of went to the sideline a bit much whenever he did catch the football. So that's why, for me, his field vision was at a 7.2. I also think that this team maybe didn't use him in the most versatile way, honestly. I think that his route tree was awesome. So when I say that this is a 7, it's nothing to do with his route tree, but I do think that he just wasn't, the guys in front of him are used, H-back, slot, split out, one-on-one, outside, traditional tight end spot. You see them line up all over the field. You see them in motion. And I just don't know if I necessarily saw that from Logan. And I feel like part of that has to do with where his blocking was at here. I have it rated at a 5. It is the second lowest out of any tight end here in the top 5. And probably any tight end, honestly, that we evaluated. Just because, when he does block, it's kind of doesn't look great. He kind of throws his whole body into it and just looks like he's just, catapulting himself at people, and isn't necessarily getting his hands in the best spot every single time. And, he drives his feet, but kind of inconsistently, I would say, for his blocking. So those 3 categories were my lowest here. I also put strength at a 7.4 because while he, would usually take more than one defender to be dragged down, it was just a little inconsistent, honestly, and I don't think that also in the blocking game he was getting a huge push on some guys. But it did kind of rev itself back up to a 7.4 when one defensive back tried to press him, and he literally just freaking sunned him, to create 4 or 5 yards of distance here. So, that's kind of what redeemed it. But I do think that there is room for improvement, mostly on his strength, that I think helps grow his versatility on the field, and also, his blocking on the field. Coach V, we have some of the same, some things different here, but what are you looking from improvement-wise from Logan Ryan here?
Yeah, so I will say this. All of his grades except for 2 are an 8.4 and up, and so that's how high I am on Logan Ryan. But the 2 grades that are not an 8.4 and up are both 5s. I gave him a 5 in blocking. You said it best, Cody. There are some things just fundamentally that he needs to work on skill-wise. It's not like a strength thing or anything. Well, it is a little bit of a strength thing as well. But fundamentally, skill-wise, there's just some things from, top to bottom that he needs to work on. Would love to see better extension and just better hand placement in general. Better blocking in general. That's definitely something that he could work on. And then strength, I think he's not the weakest guy out there, but I feel like I'm deducting from strength more so because of the lack of it I see in his blocking. And so we'll love to see a little bit more power and whatnot. Where he's standing right now at 6'5", 215, I think he would probably be better off just going all in at tight end. If you go in at receiver, you'll probably have to drop 15-ish pounds, but he's at 215 right now. If he puts on 20 pounds, I think he's fine, and a lot of those things are automatically, mostly off the table, and he'll be just fine. But yeah, we'll definitely have to agree, blocking and strength are his biggest issues there. Other than that, he's a great athlete. He's definitely more of a receiving modern-day tight end than anything. But if you could put on some muscle here, improve your blocking, then it makes it really hard for coaches to deny you a spot on the field or opportunities to get on the field and go and make plays, because he really is a great athlete outside of those things. Right, Cody?
No, absolutely. And I think that's reflected in our scores here. You had him at a 79.2. I had him at a 78.9. That is, I think, the closest we were evaluating almost any prospect. It was the closest that we were evaluating any of these top 5 guys from score to score. So we see very eye to eye on who Logan Ryan is, what he's about, and how much of a weapon he can be on the next level here. And so talking about the next level, he has a couple of D2 offers like Adams State, Black Hills State, and I'm pretty sure Concordia is also a Division II school. But I think that's something that's really interesting and could be, hopefully something that turns into a little bit more. As he did visit Wyoming. He visited Laramie on November 19th here. So I think that we're starting to see a little bit how far Logan Ryan can go, because he is worth getting those looks from Division I programs. He is that kind of offensive weapon, and I like to see him getting that look. Wyoming is a school that, does kind of keep an eye on some of these guys that, maybe do lack strength on, the high school level here in Colorado. But I'm sure that the guys in Laramie aren't afraid of the weight room here. I think that's kind of part of their culture up there in Wyoming is, all right, we're gonna do this just like the farm boys here in Wyoming. We're gonna get tough. We're gonna get strong. And I think that that's something that he could look at. But I could definitely see him just honestly being a Mountain West tight end and succeeding on that level of play. Coach V, what do you think of his current offers? And also, what do you think of my assessment here on, his fit being, a Mountain West level group of 5 kind of guy?
Well, I am glad that he has a couple opportunities to play on the next level here. But, with where I have him rated out, I have him rated out as a 79.2 here. And honestly, I think he's someone who's probably an FCS to group of 5 D1 talent. Just looking at some of the film and the plays he made this season, you could just see the potential. Like, this is a guy with playmaker ability on the next level. Next level playmaker ability is what I mean there. He's somebody that can head top a lot of guys on the next level and, did it against some of the best defenders here in 5A in Colorado. And so I feel like that should be able to translate pretty well here. If he goes D2, that's fine. I think he'll be able to play pretty soon there. But I think no doubt the talent, in my opinion, is D1. Blocking strength like that could be worked on. But the intangibles, him being 6'5" and being able to move the way he does and being able to head top dudes and make all these crazy catches, that is a really hard skill set to teach, especially considering you can't teach 6'5" or speed, right? So that's kind of just where I'm at right now. I get it though, because I feel like this was like his biggest season so far, so maybe some people are looking at it and they're like, well, is this a flash in the pan or not? Also, how does he fit into our system? Maybe teams are looking for more fullback types than receiver types at tight end, and that is definitely an issue. I wouldn't say issue, but definitely an obstacle when it comes to recruiting tight ends. Wouldn't you say, Kodey?
Yeah, no, it's hard to tell sometimes where it's like, all right, you're big and you were able to, beat guys that maybe weren't able to match up with you. But, how is that going to translate to the next level? And I'm telling you, and so is Coach V here, that he just literally has things that you can't coach. He's not just a guy who's big. He's a guy who's big and athletic. I think that second word and that combination of the two is very, very important when talking about Logan Ryan as a prospect heading forward. And I think that he is somebody who is deserving of those looks on the D1 level 100%.
Well, with that being said, these other guys in front of him are definitely D1 guys. Kodey, do you mind if I talk about the number 2 tight end here in this class?
Sendy Wendy.
So, the number 2 tight end in the class of 2024 is Colton Mills Younger out of Pooter here. 6'2", 225, a little undersized here, but a great skill set for this player. Look, this is a guy just straight up. He's a football player, man. He's going to go do a lot for your team on offense and on defense. Now, let me go ahead and talk about his highest ratings here. For me, I gave him an 8.7 in blocking and an 8.7 in verticality and contested catch. Yes, you heard that right. That shows how vast his skill set is just by those two being his highest ratings there. Let me talk about the blocking here. Look, they ask him to block from a number of positions, whether it's out in the slot, out at receiver, inline blocking, close to the line, stuff like that. He's moved around a lot, and he dominates his assignments over and over and over again. He's been doing this for years. Want to say he's either a 2-year or a 3-year varsity starter at least, and the blocking has always been there for Colton Mills Younger. We knew what kind of blocker he was there, and he does it so much that he pretty much fits any system on the next level. When you ask a tight end to block, like, he has done it all before. And so he pretty much fits all of that, and that versatility goes a long way for sure. So there you go there. Now, talking about verticality and contested catch, this is a guy that's going to make a lot of tough catches in great coverage. May not get the best separation or anything like that, but has really strong hands, and is going to come down with the football. If you need him to go get a first down on 4th and 5 or something like that, throw it over the middle, and he's going to go get it. Plain and simple. And so just a very reliable hands here, a tough dude. And, this is a guy that, like I said, on offense has been used in a variety of ways. Sometimes they'll hand it off to him. Sometimes they'll, line him up at fullback, outside, inside, wherever. And he's just going to go make plays, and there's a lot of plays as well where they'll throw a screen to him and he'll just go, break a bunch of tackles. I mean, this is a guy who's just a straight up football player, man. Think of the Kyle Juszczyks, the George Kittles of the world. He is definitely that type of breed of tight end, in my honest opinion. Is that fair to say, Kodey?
No, that was the very first thing that I noticed watching his film was, hey, there's not a lot that this guy can't do. I mean, he had an awesome spread, and honestly, watching through his film, I was like, okay, I get that he is a solid blocker. I get that he's somebody who can block, and that's something that you can ask him to do. So I guess, I was like, all right, how many highlight reel catches is he going to have? Oh my gosh, he has highlight reel catches. What the heck is going on here? So I think that, Colton Mills Younger, he's an absolute stud. I think that those are some great comparisons of a guy that can literally do it all. And I think that he has room to grow even. I am kind of curious to see where his ceiling is here. But I know that right now, looking at him as a prospect, I love his hands / his ball skills. I think that he's able to track the ball very, very well. I think that he's able to reel in some, pretty tough, sideline catches or some pretty tough hits as well. I think that he fields those very well, and he adjusts to some errant throws. Yeah, that's the word I'll use. Some errant throws at times, and, I think that he does a great job of, manipulating himself. I mean, I have his balance / body control at an 8.1. I have his verticality / contested catch. That is something that you had highly regarded. We're right neck and neck here. I have it at an 8.6. He's somebody who has caught in double coverage. He's somebody who's caught, with somebody draped all over him. And, he ends up just wearing that other player like a cape as he just makes a Superman-esque level play for scores and touchdowns here. And, I think that the 8s just kept on rolling here. I mean, his route tree / versatility, this was an interesting one because while his route tree, I think, is maybe not the most versatile, I would say. I think that he has a decent spread between flats, corners, outs, ins, and, read plays over the middle. I think that that's always something that I look for on a tight end route tree is somebody who's able to find the soft spot in the defense, and I think that he does a good job against that. But I think that, his versatility here is the really strong part because he's used out of the slot. He is a traditional tight end. He does split out wide. He's used in an H-back. He's sometimes used as a fullback. And, he's able to block interior and exterior linemen in motion, counter looks, in inside zone split looks, and so much more. And, his ability to line up everywhere and succeed makes his value very high. I mean, if you've been listening to us, you know that versatility is key when we are evaluating you, and that's something that we have gotten confirmed from coaches on the next level. Like, hey, if you can prove to be useful in more than one way, you're more likely to end up on this roster for us here. And I think that's something that Mills Younger exemplifies perfectly, honestly, when evaluating him as a prospect. And even the stuff that I don't have graded as high, it's a little bit, I will admit, on the nitpicky side here. I say that his speed's a 7.7. He's not the fastest guy on the field, but he's not slow by any means. I mean, he wins foot races on occasion when the stars line and they're in the right spot. I have his footwork / agility and his field of vision at 7.8s, but they're literally knocking on that 3-star door. And Coach V, your areas of improvement aren't even graded that low either.
Yeah, no, definitely not. I mean, my lowest rating for him is an 8. Route tree versatility is one of those, and then field vision's the other one. Here's the thing about Colton Mills Younger that I will throw out there as far as things that he can improve on, or maybe try to improve on, but like compared to some of the other guys on here, he's not like the greatest athlete. He's definitely not the best athlete, actually, out of the top 5 guys here. There's a lot of guys who are faster, more agile, stronger as well. The strength in Colton Mills Younger game is that he's a versatile football player that has more skill than just raw, physical ability. And that makes up for a lot of it, honestly, I should say. Is that fair, Kodey? I mean, that's why a lot of his ratings are a little bit lower, like 8 agility, 8.1 speed, I mean, not a getaway, breakaway type guy. Agility, I mean, he's not going to break any ankles at tight end. Strength is, it's a little bit higher, 8.4. That's not too bad there. But is that fair to say, Kodey, just a guy who is more skill-based than athletic-based?
Yeah, no, 100%. He's more of a, Swiss Army than he is a specialized kind of player, which, it bodes well in a 10 rubric system. But, I think that especially some of the things, honestly, if I've no disrespect, but I think that he's probably the least imposing athletic ability out of the guys here in the top 5, if I had to be 100% honest. I mean, he does have, some of the lower speed scores and some of the lower footwork / agility scores out of the guys that I graded. So I think that that's fair to say, but, the fact that he is good at so many things is why he is at the number 2 spot, which I think is 100% fair.
Yeah, and this is a perfect example of somebody who has worked at being a great all-around football player and is a great all-around football player. And that goes a long way because you need guys like this to, first off, be the glue to your team and whatnot, because you never know, maybe you need a guy who just needs to go make a catch on 4th and 5 or go make a great block and have the ability to maybe even make that catch as well, right? And you could just plug him in and he'll go get it done. On top of that, I will say this as well. He's a great defensive player too. I mean, he has a really good defensive highlight reel going on here, but I definitely see him as more of a tight end, and so you can put him on special teams, and I think he could be a great special teams guy as well. Altogether, this is a guy who's going to contribute in more ways than one, and he's going to fill a lot of holes in more ways than one. If you need an emergency running back or an emergency receiver or tight end or whatever, he could get in there, and he's going to find a way to get it done, and he's going to do as good as he can in his matchup, if not win it. Plain and simple. That's who he is. He's going to get the job done. And that's definitely why he's such a valuable prospect here. Because, well, first off, he's not the smallest guy either. He's 6'2", 225, which is good enough for the next level, I would say. And, add in the skill set, he definitely makes up a guy that is almost irreplaceable for a lot of teams on the next level because of how many different positions he could fill, just in case somebody gets hurt. Is that fair to say, Kodey? And do you want to go ahead and talk about, him on the next level here?
Yeah, no, I think that everything that you said is fair, and I think that, his versatility, I think that his spread out skill set, you can kind of lean into some of the things that he does do well and develop him in a few different ways. I think that college coaches will have a lot of options on what to do with Colton Mills Younger, because I mean he is somebody who, is a solid blocker, and so if you want him to jump up to 235 and use him, more in between the tackles to just plow open running lanes, and then use him more as a play action catching threat, he's somebody who can do everything that he does at 235 slash, maybe even a little bit more. So I think that that's something that does bode for him well, is, because he is so good at so many things. I think that versus these other guys where, speed is one of their strengths, and you're like, oh, well, we want them to add a little bit of size to be a tight end, but how much is that going to impact their speed? I don't think you really have to worry about that with Colton Mills Younger, because he beats you in other ways, and he's a bit more crafty anyway. So that's kind of my thoughts on him. And then he has an interesting kind of spread here. He has 6 offers right now, mostly RMAC kind of stuff. Adams State, Colorado Mesa, Black Hill State, Chadron State, Fort Lewis. He went on a visit to Augustana, and he's also been to University of Northern Colorado as well. He was invited to a game there. No announcement on offers yet, but Coach V, you and I have some insight as alma maters and being close on the scene, and I don't think it's a secret either. There's kind of a huge exodus going on at the University of Northern Colorado, which means that there's opportunity, is kind of the way that I like to word that for our up-and-coming prospects, I think is a way to look at it. And I think that he's somebody who I think matches kind of like the Greeley culture of football, or what, it's kind of trending to be. They were a team that, while they struggled this year record-wise, they were right there with some of the best teams on the FCS level. And I think that, bringing in a guy like Colton Mills Younger, I think that not only his skill set, but also just kind of like, not to be, stereotypical here, but to use the word glue guy, I think is not an overstatement on somebody that's going to come in and he's going to try and outwork everyone on the field, in the weight room, and he's going to push his teammates to be better as well. I think that that would not be a bad offer, from the Bears' perspective.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I also will say this. My final rating for him is an 82.7. I think he's a D1 guy. Probably not, Power 5 or Group of 5, because, they're definitely looking for dudes who are like 6'3" and up. And so that's kind of where that 6'2" frame hurts. It doesn't always matter, right? It doesn't always matter. But, when you are one of those D1s, you kind of have that expectation that your tight ends are 6'4" at the smallest, and, ideally in that 6'5", 6'6", 6'7" range. So that's kind of where that hurts him here. And so I understand why some teams, may not be offering him, or maybe he just doesn't fit what they do, or doesn't, have the frame for what they do and whatnot, and so they're concerned about that. But, being a Northern Colorado alum, I'm definitely a little bit biased. I'd love to see him stay in Northern Colorado. Now, I don't know if he'll be on scholarship or whatever, but you just gotta find a way to get this guy on our roster, right? Find a way to get him into our locker room and stuff like that. Just have a guy that is a plain football player, could fill in a lot of different roles, and will do a good job at that, plain and simple. And is a good athlete, a solid enough athlete to at least play on the FCS level, because I really think he's an FCS guy right now because of his skill set. But realistically, he's probably D2 because he's 6'2", 225, maybe not the speediest or strongest athlete out there too. So that's kind of what's hurting him at this point. But I love the skill set, and I think he has the skill set of a FCS tight end. So there you go.
Perfect. So it sounds like we're basically in agreement there on Colton Mills Younger, but I think that his frame is definitely where I think the majority of his looks are kind of being interfered with, I guess, if you want to call it that. But, solid tight end, great season. And, between your score at 82.7 and mine at 82.1, that puts him at an 82.4 overall and our number 6 tight end. And before we talk about our number 1 tight end, Coach V, do you want to talk about some of the finalists, or some of the honorable mentions, I should say, for our top 5 list, guys that we watched and that we liked, and maybe some reasons why they didn't make the list, and how much it pained us to make some of these cuts and how close it was even.
Yeah, I'll do that. I'm just gonna go down the line here and read off some of the guys who are really close. Jackson Garrett from Cheyenne Mountain, 6'5", 215, had him rated at 77.8. He was just outside. Ben Early from Banning Lewis Academy, he's 6'4", 205. A 1A tight end, by the way. He was really impressive. Well, unfortunately, just outside the cut, another great athlete. Kai Goetze here from Pine Creek, 6'2", 215. Probably more of a fullback than anything. But here's the thing, I think this is worth saying right now in the honorable mention section, but like, if the fullback position was more of a thing, a lot of these guys would have more offers, is all I'm saying there. So there you go there. Brady Varney from Severance, another big body guy at 6'5", 225. He was someone who just was off. TJ May from Palmer Ridge, 6'4", 200, another guy we considered. Zach Smith, I know he's committed to CSU. He's 6'7", 260 from Thunder Ridge. He is somebody that I honestly think is probably more of a tackle, like a next level D1 Power 5 tackle than a tight end. He's just a little bit too slow at tight end. Has sure hands though, but just not quite the athleticism, which is why he's off there. And then last but not least, I want to shout out Reed Finch from Rock Canyon. He's 6'6", 225. This was his first full year as a starter there, and he did really good. And you know, those are just a couple of guys, and something I really want to say, Cody, before I pass it to you here. A lot of these guys were guys that I felt like if they had just one more year, they would probably be on this list or be the caliber of a D1 guy or somebody that could make this list. Is that fair to say, Cody?
Of course it's fair to say, because I literally texted it to you when we were talking about it. You stealing my my exact words here, more or less. But, I mean, I think that, a lot of these guys were just a little too raw in one way or another. And, I do want to give you credit on that fullback comment, because I saw it 100% for a handful of these guys, especially Kai, that, excelled at blocking and did things very well inside the tackles, but maybe didn't show quite as much outside the tackles to warrant being a top 5 guy on this list. Where I think that these guys, we definitely leaned no, I don't even want to say that we leaned pass catcher. I think that we had a nice little spread here. And I think that this final guy, Coach V, if you don't have anything else to say, is, kind of the epitome of doing everything well.
Yeah, go for it. Go ahead and talk about our number 1 tight end in this class.
And once again, saying this on December 1st, only one day before he plays for the 5A state championship. And if those hints weren't good enough, let me go ahead and just rip off the Band-Aid for you. And let's talk about Dawson Johnson, the senior tight end out of Cherry Creek High School, who, just through and through, I had a total score of 84.5 because he, if Colton Mills does everything good, Dawson Johnson does everything a little bit more than good, is probably a fair way to say that. And, the tight end position is some position that has been kind of asked a lot of at this Creek school that, does balance the ball, probably almost not 50-50, but 60-40 or 40-60, depending on the matchup in the day. They balance the run and the pass very, very well. So as a tight end in their system, you can't just be a guy that can only block. You can't just be a guy that can only catch. You have to take care of business in every facet of the game, and Dawson Johnson does that well. Just going through here, 8.6 route running, 8.4 blocking, 8.3 speed, 8.6 hand/ball skills, 8.7 footwork/agility, 8.3 field vision, 8.6 strength, 8.9 route tree/versatility. There's no, what are you supposed to be upset about here with all these 3-star ratings across the board? And I wrote in my description that he's a player who just never gets sick of making the right play. On his option or read routes, he always finds the pocket in the defense and is fine making a 3 or 4 yard catch and fighting for the next 5 yards. He's a force that is rarely, if ever, brought down by a single defender and is for sure deserving of credit when it comes to this Creek offensive line paving open running lanes and pancaking interior linemen, edge rushers, and especially next level defenders. He gets his feet moving, and when running with the football is very conscious, both route running and ball in hand of the boundaries, defenders, fellow players, and is cognitively, I feel, kind of already on the next level here. The versatility, I think, comes mainly from, I think that he's somebody who was able to catch screens, flats, underneath routes, he's running those read routes, he's running corner routes, and he's running them effectively and finding the pockets in the defense. He's somebody who you can send over the middle as well to find those holes in the defense. Not really used too much as a deep play threat, but somebody on those intermediate and short routes who can be found basically anywhere on the field, somebody who can line up in the slot, somebody who can line up out wide and block for screens or catch them as well. So, I think that he's just somebody who does a lot of things very well. And then something that, it's really funny that Coach V, you could tell how Coach V and I evaluate a little bit differently once you hear his evaluations of these skills. But I actually had his footwork/agility at an 8.7. I think that he moves direction fairly well. And I think that on top of that, when it comes to blocking, he is the guy who never relents pumping those feet. I think that his base when blocking is pretty consistent, as evidenced by his blocking at an 8.4. I think that, he just does a lot of things right. And, whatever you need him to do, he's going to do exactly that with no complaints or problems or issues. He's somebody who makes Jordan Heron's life easier. He's somebody who makes Max Parrott, Hayden Treater, or, AJ Burton, Brady Vodka, and everybody else on that Creek offense. The list goes on and on and on. He makes all of their jobs a lot easier because whatever they need him to do, he's capable of doing it, and he's capable of doing it well at that.
Yeah, agreed. Hey, before I go into my stuff here, gotta shout out our boy Hayden Treater here, because we released our tight end preseason watch list a bit ago, and Hayden messaged us directly and was like, what about my boy Dawson Johnson? And I was like, all right, well, let me go ahead and take a look here. I like Hayden. He's a friend of the podcast, good dude, and so I looked at it, and I remember just thinking like, golly, this is a sleeper right here. And even though he is our number 1 rated tight end, I still think he's a sleeper, though. 6'4", 220, does so much for Cherry Creek, like you said, Cody. Let me go over my ratings real quick here. Gave him a 9 for blocking. Yes, I think he's on the level of a 4-star blocker. Just the way he's able to extend and manhandle guys off the edge or wherever, honestly, and then go on and get to the next level, it's special. He could definitely block on the next level, and even in the NFL, if he continues to do it that way. And so absolutely love that. Also, gave him an 8.8 for verticality and contested catch. He has real strong hands. He's going to come down with it. Will make tough catches through contact and stuff like that. Saw that pretty consistently there. Ralston Valley, there are a couple good catches against them in the, I guess in the playoffs too, but in the first matchup they had that I really liked there, that stood out to me. And then hands and ball skills, that goes with that 8.6 too. I mean, this is a guy who will do it all. He's a great pass catcher. He's a great blocker. And, he's a pretty good athlete, too, at 6'4", 220. I like him a little bit better than Colton Mills Younger, which is why he has the slight edge by 0.5, at least for me there. Cody, do you mind if I go ahead and talk about some quick areas of improvement here for Dawson Johnson?
Hit it.
So don't got too much here. Route tree versatility, gave him a 7.5. That is more for route tree than versatility, and it's just because they're not going to ask him to run a crazy amount of routes, because you got a bunch of guys like Lovett over there, Jordan Heron and Brady Vodka running the ball, Jaden Irving over there as well. So you got a lot of different pass catchers who are doing a lot, and so he just fits into his role very specifically and well, which is not bad, but it does hurt a little bit of what we are able to see him do. But honestly, I think that's not the biggest deal there. I feel like he'll be just fine. And then I gave him a 7.7 for footwork and agility. Here, look, don't get it twisted. There are some great plays on display where he's able to show his footwork and agility and have a little wiggle to him and make something happen after the catch too. I think you see that sometimes as well. But then there are also some plays where it's like, I don't know what's going on here. Maybe if he's just too tight and he's not able to quite get out there and, be consistently agile, but there are just times he looks a little too stiff to me. And so it's not as much him just not being able to be agile at his best. It's just him for me, like just not consistently being able to do that and looking tight at times and not being able to move around as well in tight spots consistently. So that's kind of where I'm at with footwork and agility. But other than that, I mean, he's a great blocker. He finds ways to get the ball. If he gets even a little bit of separation, he's going to come down with the football plain and simple. So honestly, that's just me nitpicking there. I just would like to see him get a little bit more consistent there, because I have noticed there are plays where he just looks a little too stiff. And I don't know if it's because he's tired or stamina or whatever. I would probably assume that, honestly. But if he could continue to work on that, his stamina and his athleticism overall, I think he'll be just fine. Is that fair to say, Kodey? And what are some other things you have to talk about his overall ability? And by the way, overall grade for Dawson Johnson for me is an 83.2.
Yeah, no, I can see where you're coming from consistency-wise, so I respect that 100%. I like what he shows at the top end, but, I also understand that maybe we'd want to see it just a little bit more consistently here, so I respect that. The lowest grade that I had was still an 8 for him in verticality/contested catch, just because I didn't really see him head top or really make me gasp at any crazy vertical catches. But I do think that he made some very strong catches. But I mean, if your lowest category is an 8, I think that you're fine, because that's still a 3-star level. So I think that if he can continue to just grow as player strength wide, in the pretty generic sense, I think that he's pretty fine, honestly. So, let's go ahead and talk about some things that he is looking forward to on the next level. It's kind of interesting because there's a lot of, it's kind of, what's the word I'm looking for here? It's a little misdirection-ish. Wow, check out that vocab. Look that up, kids. But anyways, there's a lot of different mixed signals, I should say, when it comes to his recruiting, because, he has visited CSU. He has visited Lindenwood. Hawaii is making him graphics. His older brother played at University of Northern Colorado, currently in the transfer portal. But, that's something and is a connection. He has a preferred walk-on to the University of Florida. So we're talking, P-dubs to, SEC stuff. But also he has offers to Air Force, Army, and Cal is his most recent one that he received literally 3 hours ago, 1:47 p.m., and I would be very surprised if we don't see offers, from CSU following his playing in their stadium this weekend. I think that is a great opportunity for the Rams to really jump on some of this talent, especially from the teams that are going to be there that have so much, abundance of talent is what I should say. Coach V, what do you make of this? Honestly, this is kind of a mess here. For different levels of D1. I mean, obviously the moral of the story here is D1 next level, but I mean, definitely kind of a weird mix between Group 5, Power 5, FCS, kind of little inconsistent here.
You said he had an offer from UNC, right?
No. His brother went to the University of Northern Colorado.
No, I know, but
does he have an offer?
Was he not offered?
I don't know.
Okay.
I was not able to find
I thought he was
that.
offered.
I was just pointing out that he has a lot of
trip.
weird connections here, there, and everywhere.
Okay. Well, I'm pretty sure he was offered after the trip. Look, here, let me talk about him as a prospect first. He's a D1 guy. I think he could play on the Power 5 level, honestly. Now, he's going to need probably, 2 years at least to develop if he does go Power 5 and stuff like that. I think he's good for it, though.
Found
but
the UNC
if he wants
offer,
to play
by
on
the way.
Okay. So, yeah, he does have one. But if he was to play on the Group of 5 or FCS level, obviously I think he'd play a little bit sooner. He's a little light at 220 and a little shorter at 6'4", but it's not that bad, right? And the skill set I really like as well. Bottom line, he's a D1 guy, right? Now, where he decides to play, we'll have to see. I don't know where he's at as far as prioritizing, what matters to him, whether it's playing time or education, which would obviously be great and stuff like that, or opportunities to develop into a maybe NFL tight end as well. That could obviously matter as well. But, I think there's no doubt that he can play on the D1 level, wherever it is. Now, as a selfish UNC fan, and I'm going to get a little political here, I would love, first off, for his brother to rejoin the team and stay with us, because he's been a great player for us.
Yeah, he's good.
He's been one of those guys that I love watching play. Also, shout out Kanapke as well. They play similar positions too. But I would love for him to stay and for Dawson to come to Greeley. Because honestly, I think if we gave him a year, he could compete for a starting tight end spot, like 1 year removed. Honestly, I truly believe that he could be that guy for us. And that's how high I am on Dawson Johnson here. Now, I don't know what will happen there. I'd imagine it's pretty awkward, going to a school after your brother transferred and whatnot. And, I'd encourage him to look into that Cal offer, and hopefully CSU is not idiotic and they offer him after they win state, or, are at state and whatnot.
TBD
so
if that stays in.
Yeah, well, I'll keep it in regardless. But, I really love his game, and I think he will be able to compete at any D1 level here. And hopefully he is on a full ride scholarship. I wouldn't want to see him risk, taking a PWO when he's already getting scholarships at a D1, especially with the transfer portal, if you get what I'm trying to put down, Cody. So there you go there.
The door is never closed, is what you're trying to say, and I think that is a great sentiment to echo. So, but
never.
Yeah. So to trip over my words, I think that I like these offers that he has, and I mean that Cal one is pretty exciting, and there's history there and whatnot as far as the program goes. It'd be a pretty cool one to play for. And one where maybe he can make some noise. But I think he could definitely make noise at any of these other spots. I'm interested to see what his stance is on, the commitment that is Army or Air Force. Because, if he is a Patriot, then, that is going to play a role here. So I am interested to see how those play out. And what? What?
If he's a Patriot, then we'll see how that turns out.
Well, I mean, that would influence, how much he wants to go to those schools. That's all. I don't know what Coach
saying
V
if you're
is.
Not a real American, you should take Air Force over Bama.
Oh, not what I said. Quip. There goes Coach V doing his Coach G for gaslighting moment. But anyways, I'm just interested to see how this all turns out and how the dominoes fall. But, with Dawson Johnson being crowned our number one senior tight end of the class of 2024, let's go through Playmakers Corner top 5 senior tight ends in the class of 2024. Starting at number 5 was Nicholas Bucano, still be TBD, but he's committed to Pomona Pitzer here on the D3 level. He ended up with a 77.44. Mason Cowgill, oh my gosh, how do I butcher this every time? Mason Cogill, oh my gosh, with a 77.55, committed to the University of South Dakota. Logan Ryan, who has a few offers and some visits on the D1 level, he had a 79.05. Colton Mills Younger with a ton of RMAC offers and some FCS looks with an 82.4, and Dawson Johnson with a handful of D1 looks with an 84 overall grade. Coach V, do you have anything else to add on about these prospects before I take us out of the show here?
No, not too much here. I mean, I will always add this. Colorado is low-key a sleeper for tight ends. We've had some great ones at this position the last couple years here, man. I mean, just always so much talent, and this is definitely one of the strongest positions and the hardest positions evaluating here, because you really got to nitpick, and you got to look at pretty much every aspect of the game of football when looking at these guys. And so, it's special for them to be on our top 5 list, in my opinion, because we do put in a lot of work trying to evaluate them, and we really feel like these are the 5 best tight ends in Colorado right now. Now, in the future, that could always change, because I feel like a lot of these guys are 1 year away from being that guy. But, right now I think we got it. Right, Kodey?
Yeah, no, I mean, we really had to dig in. And like I said, the gap between Nick and I'm just going to name drop here, and between Ben Early for our composite score was literally only 0.15. So very cutthroat here and very meticulous evaluation. And, I'm very grateful for all these players for putting on for the Box State. And speaking of putting on for the Box State, that's kind of what we do here at Playmakers Corner, where we're going to continue to have top 5 seniors by positions. We got 11 positions that we're going to run through, evaluating with different rubrics varying on position. Still the 10 kind of category out of 10 point score, with maybe a little bit of a difference here and there. And that is going to continue to evolve every year that we watch more and more football. But thank you so much for the support, and you're probably listening to this on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or Google Podcasts, or maybe even YouTube. No matter where you are listening to us, make sure that you are subscribed or following, and that you have notifications turned on for any time we have a new episode coming out. To check out really cool graphics that we make for all of the episodes, and to also see who is announced for episodes, award winners, recaps, anything to that nature, go ahead and find us on Instagram, Twitter, /X, or Facebook, where we are at Playmakers Corner on Insta, at Playmaker Corner on Twitter, and then just Playmakers Corner on Facebook. Tons of content there for y'all. And then also, if you've been following us and seeing all the highlights that we've been posting, you found that on TikTok at Playmakers Corner, where we have even more great content coming out for y'all. Thank you so much for the support, and stay tuned for more top 5 episodes. Be sure to listen to our recaps of the season. It just will have wrapped up, by the time that you hear this. But be sure to check out what happened in this season and in those championship games, and check out our end of the year award episodes here, where, players that we will have talked about in this top 5 series, will also be talked about in those episodes. But I have been one of your co-hosts for this episode, Kodey Stauffer.
And I'm the other one, Coach V, and we'll catch you later.
Peace.